Hi, my name is Dee Tails, and if you're a Star Wars fan, you may have seen me working as a creature performer on The Force Awakens, Rogue One, The Last Jedi, and Solo. And I'll be chatting to my funk soul brother Ben on the Lost World of Movie Props soon. So please stay tuned. Peace.
Hello, everybody. My name's Ben Robbins from the Lost World of Movie Props, and I'm here today with the one and only Dee Tails. How you doing, Dee?
Stop!
No.
I'm doing very well. I'm doing very well. Finally, we get to chat. We were
Finally.
planning on meeting up and whatever, and this whole thing's a mess. But yeah, we're face to face here at least.
Yeah, I tried so many venues and places, and everything was either fully booked or double the price. And I tried like 30 venues and just nothing. I was just like, I can't pull this out the bag.
But we will
We will.
eventually. And
Oh
we'll
yeah,
hook up our friend. We'll hook up a good friend Doug too. We'll bring him
we'll drag Doug
in.
up. Yeah. Then we hit the pub afterwards.
Yeah.
Nice one. But yeah, so Doug, not Doug, I would have called you D. I was thinking of Doug now. But we got you on stage, so we want to talk about obviously your career in the music and film industry. So I've got a load of questions. You happy just to get stuck in?
Yes, indeed. Yes,
Right.
indeed. It's all good.
So what came first in your life? Was it music or acting, or when did they both come in?
Um, it was the acting. It was the acting thing that I got sucked in on. I had no idea. I mean, I was watching movies and things like that as a kid and marveling at how they were making me feel. I mean, like the first movie that made me cry was E.T. And
Mm.
my parent, my family took me to see that at the cinema or whatever. And that was a strange thing because you don't expect to cry watching a movie. You expect to cry if you've done something wrong and you get a smack. You know what I mean? But that was a strange sensation for me. But yeah, it was just little things that were coming along, like after watching Sesame Street in the mornings on the weekend, they would show this behind the scenes thing of
Mm.
different movies, and some movies I would recognize, whether it was Dune or something like that, and then the other, and then some others you're just thinking, hang on, what the hell is that? Jim Henson stood on a planet with some little green guy with big ears, and there's Miss Piggy and there's Kermit. What's going on?
Yeah.
That just kind of grabs your attention. But I'm trying to think, what was it? I don't know. I did my first play at middle school, and I was amazed that I could actually remember dialogue.
Yeah.
And not only that, that it fit into the ballpark of watching and loving things that were based on sci-fi and fantasy. Because as a kid, I'm watching, I'm watching Buck Rogers, I'm watching Battlestar Galactica, I'm watching, obviously, the usual Knight Rider and stuff like that, in terms of real world, tech and everything like that. But, I'm watching these things, but I'm never really kind of thinking, oh, I'd like to be that character. No, I'm trying to think about how I would fit into a world like that. And if I could be friends with, some of the characters and hang out with Twiggy from Buck Rogers or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just those kid things. And let me think, dude. Yeah, it was that play. It was that play because up until then, it was something that I could just watch rather than take part in. Other than my little action figures and things like that, I'll be playing with and creating a world and fantasy that way. But when I did that play, it was Aladdin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I remember at the age of 10. Now you remember the types of comedies that were on the show, on TV and things like that back then, whether it was Russ Abbott going back on Morecambe and Wise or something like
Yeah.
that. Um, but I'd seen TV like that, and there was an audition, and I think it was for the whole year to take part rather than just one class. I think it was the whole year, and every dude in that year wanted to be the genie of the lamp. you know it was like, well, the teacher was adamant that this girl was going to be playing Aladdin, right? So you're thinking, well, what's left, right? So,
Yeah.
you know? And I remember trying to think of what to do and whatever. And I remember sitting there in the gymnasium, yeah, on the benches, because we had to sit. We were all sat on benches, and you had to get up and do your audition in front of your year, right?
Oh, nice.
And so all the guys were getting up and being as cool as hell and doing this thing, and goosebumps. I get those quite a bit, right? So Are You Being Served? Yeah, was on TV.
I remember that.
And you know, I got up there, and the line came at me, and it was just like, well, who are you? And I came back with, I'm the genie of the lamp. At 10 years old, the whole place just fell apart, and then that was it. I got that part, and it was massive for me in a way, because I didn't know that I could pretend in public. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, you pretend with your mates or whatever, but you're pretending in public, and people just are watching you. Yeah. And then you've got dialogue to say. Yeah. And so as a kid, I remember in dialogue like this much at a time, panicking before I'm going on stage, thinking, what if I forget? What if I forget? But that was what got me back then. It was that bug of remembering dialogue and being able to get to pretend. And I'm pretending around people that are also pretending, and a set that looks like this is where it's supposed to be. And I fell into it that way. And beyond that point, it was like, I want to be an actor. I want to be famous. I want to be famous like, and you know, and then you come across people like Eddie Murphy. I want to be famous like Eddie Murphy, but my mum won't let me swear, so I'll be famous like Bill Cosby. You know what I mean? Because he wasn't swearing at that time. You know, and then and then gradually it just turned into just the love of acting. You know, and that came later, because took a hiatus in between all of that, with music, but that didn't come out of nothing either. You know, it was like, to go to auditions, you needed an equity card. Yeah, to get an equity card, you needed contracts. To get a contract, you needed an equity card. It was a vicious circle, and the only loophole I could find was, they gave contracts. Equity would accept contracts if you were dancing for people. Yeah, if you were a dancer. So I kind of went that route, and you know, then met the guys from the band, and that it just kind of grew from there. And then after that, you know, got back on the I don't know, the treadmill of tracking down some kind of career within acting.
So tell us about MN8. Obviously, the band that you were in. Like, where did you first meet them, and how did that start? When did you first get signed?
MN8 to the next level. Just think. I don't know, man. It's that was during my dancing days. So during my dancing days, I'd been dancing for a friend of mine who had a record deal at college. You know, so I was doing some dancing for her. Then I can't remember how it happened, but it might have happened. Who was it? Was it the Freestylers or someone like that? And I wanted to dance for them, and they weren't releasing anything, but I think the agency or something were looking for an extra dancer for an artist that was coming over, and I got roped into that, and it was me and another guy, and we ended up dancing for Gwen Guthrie. You know, ain't nothing going on but the rent got to have between you. That one, right? So that was awesome. It was like, and also during that time, it was kind of early stages of Bobby Brown, and Bobby Brown introducing everybody to MC Hammer to a point, you know, so our style of dance and everything kind of reflected that.
Yeah.
And I'd seen Hudson and Dean dancing for Snap, and some of their friends or whatever had gone to my college or whatever, and I really didn't like that style of dancing. You know, it was unentertaining, and then they went on to get more work, because they ended up doing that kind of stuff for the Pet Shop Boys, and I'm like, yeah, but you know, I was working at Wembley the other day, and I saw Bobby Brown, and I saw Bobby Brown's dancers, you know, and before Bobby Brown came on stage, I saw the Cookie Crew with their dancers called FDM. Yeah. That's who me and my boys, we modeled ourselves on FDM. Yeah, it was me, James, and Dean. Well, James and Dean, two mates of mine from way back from high school, and I'm still friends with now. But we had a dance troupe called RWF, Routines with Flavor. So during that whole scene, you know, I'm dancing for people, and I'm slowly getting contracts to the point where I then forget about trying to get an equity card, and I'm just kind of dancing here and there, and I get some amazing audition opportunities. Like I got to audition for MC Hammer out in Oakland, California, and just before that trip, I was at the Fridge in Brixton.
I DJ'd there a few times.
Yeah,
I remember the Fridge. It was always cold in there. Like it was so bizarre.
Yeah, and it always had this faint aroma of the night before.
Yeah, floor. And...
yeah, the sweat had been soaked into the floor, into the walls. You know, but you accepted it because that was club life, man.
Yeah.
And I was there with my cousin because I think it was either her or her friend who was celebrating her birthday, and they had gotten me in, and I was underage, I can admit that, but I had a faint tash coming through, and I realized that if I licked it a little bit, you know, it would look a bit darker and I might get in, right? So I got in. I'm in there and I'm dancing away, and then there's this guy dancing behind me, and I wasn't one of those guys that would turn around and start battling someone on the dance floor. So without turning around, I'd just start doing my thing, and then they'd finally walk away, right? But then I got this tap on my shoulder. I turn around, and this guy says, "Oh, I'm a singer. Are you a dancer? Are you a dancer, professional dancer?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Oh, but would you dance for me? Because I've got a single out and blah blah blah." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, I'll do that." You know, and that was G-Man. That was G-Man from the band. Right, so I first met him at Brixton, and I did a few gigs with him, and I had another friend of mine, Donovan, dancing. So we were the dancers, and he was singing and things like that. And then one day he said to me, "Dee, man, can you rap?" And I said, "Can I rap? I mean, I can write stuff down." I said, "I can write stuff down, but I'm not a freestyler or anything like that." And he was like, "Oh, okay, cool. Because I'm thinking about starting a band." I'm like, "Okay." You know, as much as I could imagine at that point was like whatever band he's putting together, maybe I'd end up being like Damon Hall from Guy, you know, maybe still a little bit BBs, but mainly dealing with the entertainment and dancers and things like that, but still being part of the band to an extent. And then I went off, had my audition, came back, and when I came back, he had met up with a friend that lived close to him called KG. So he hangs out. He's telling me about KG, and they're in the studio, and they start talking about, we're putting this band together. Dee, you can do the choreography and possibly do some of the raps and things like that. But we need one more guy because the guy we've got, you know, has left because he didn't think we were going to make it, and he needed to put food on the table. He needed money, he needed a job. So he went and worked at the Gap while we found another singer. And it turns out that, I'm not sure whether it was K or G who knew of T. I think it might have been G that knew of T. And I went to this place, found a new singer, T, cool T, you know, and said, "Well, look, we're planning on putting this thing together, no guarantees." And this is without any kind of deal in the wind or anything. Yeah. And so we started meeting up, rehearsing, doing some acapellas, you know, and then it dawned, it was like, man, I'm going to need to get some singing lessons just to do these acapellas. I'm going to have to do that, man. So I disappeared for an intense, might be, yeah, an intense 6-week singing course, which I picked up really quickly with a singing instructor called Sybil Esmore. I think she had done stuff with some of the punk boys and the punk bands back in the day and things like that. And we soon found 2 comfortable ranges for me, which was the baritone and the tenor. But I had no intention of ever singing lead. I wasn't that brave, but I could handle a rap or two and things like that. And came back, jumped into the acapellas. Then they're like, oh, dude, you picked that up really quick. Yeah. So that just opened it all up for doing that. And we were called The Juice, DAJEUCE. Yeah. And the first track we did was called Do the Nasty, which was the first garage track ever, really, because it had the soul and the R&B in this 2-step beat. And Kiss went mad for it. You know, it got playlisted on Kiss FM Kiss FM. I think they were still maybe slightly pirate back then. Yeah. But they were just, I think they were just starting to break through. And and then G had heard about this company called First Avenue, and he was pestering them. And then they wanted to see us, and then an offer came through, and that was to try and get us signed and for them to record an album with us. And in order to do that, they were going to have to pull the track Do the Nasty, which we had, pull that from the shelves. And we were like, okay, for a deal. Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah. And I think that was kind of more like the genesis from my side of things with the band. But yeah, that's how it kind of started.
Nice, because you guys had, you had 7 top hits in the 25 charts, and your biggest chart song was I Got a Little Something For You. So what was it like going into clubs and hearing people driving up the streets playing your song? What was that like?
You hear the doorbell, right?
Yeah.
Hang on, I think someone's going to get it. Yeah, repeat that question for me, please.
I was going to say, obviously, you had obviously your hit song was I Got a Little Something For You. You had 7 songs in the top 25 charts. And what was it like hearing people in the clubs and seeing them driving up down the streets playing your music and seeing people just enjoying your music? What was that like?
It was pretty surreal. It was pretty surreal because don't forget, before that, there was a year. Yeah, there was a year of recording that album, followed by 4 months. Yeah, 4 months, 3 or 4 months on the road promoting that as unknowns. And just tearing those road shows apart. They didn't know what the hell was going on. Yeah. And that was insane because no one knew who we were, but these fans had started to like MN8, and it was nuts. It was nice, but it was one of these things where we were slowly being introduced to the airwaves. And so Radio 1 picked up on us pretty damn quick. Capital got support from Capital Radio. So all the main radio stations had cottoned onto this band that were breaking out onto the scene. And by the time, I think it was January 23rd, wow, 1995, that track got released. And by then, the road shows had booked us all up, for the coming months and things like that. TV had started to happen with things like What's Up Doc and Fully Booked and Live and Kicking and Blue Peter, and then it starts getting a little bit surreal now, because now you're watching TV shows that you watch from the comfort of your bed first thing in the morning on a weekend, you know, to see the latest video or see this band perform or something. Now we're on this show, you know, being given all this space and chatting to them. And the thing is, we were so in those moments that it was easy to laugh and joke with them and stuff like that. I mean, live TV always frightened the hell out of me, man. To be honest, always did. And yeah, I'll tell you, yeah, I've got a confession to make about a live and kicking thing in a minute, right? Remind me to say that.
I will do.
But once we had been on the iconic Top of the Pops, you know, and the producer, Rick, I think it's Rick Blackson, I can't remember his surname, then defended us when parents were saying, oh, that's too rude and saucy for this time of the evening, whatever, you know, and he reminded them that they could always change the channel, you know. It's like, hey, brother, thanks, you know. And then going back on that show the following week, and then he says, oh, I want you to do it worse than you did it before, you know. They knew what the entertainment value was, you know, and the track itself was already so infectious and new to the scene. You had pop before, but you didn't have any. There was never anything that was an in between mixture of pop, R&B, and swing. Swing beat, you know, let alone having any raps on there, because, you know, that would be your summertime hit you as an import from America. Oh, there's American good cover. Oh, and they got a rap in the last bar of the sections or whatever after the bridge, and that was a standard. That was staple. That was American, right? And we were inspired by all of those artists. Yeah, in the UK bands were inspired by UK artists. So the UK artists, if you're not doing R&B, swing beat, or hip hop or anything like that, all that's left is variations of the Osmonds, you know, or Beatles or something like that, you know. So, you know, what they considered was R&B was E17 at the time, you know, and the only thing R&B about E17 was Brian Harvey. You know, Brian Harvey listened to the same stuff we listened to, you know. Dude was a legend, yeah. And we loved E17, and Brian was really cool. And so when we came onto the scene, we just cleared everything up. Yeah. We don't wear clothes the way you wear clothes for E17. We don't wear those hats. We don't tuck the jeans into our boots. Yeah, that's not R&B. Right? Yeah. And you can enjoy your raps from PJ and Duncan, you know, which are more hip hop than the Pet Shop Boys. Yeah, but it's still playground rap kind of thing, whatever it is they were doing, you know, and it had its entertainment value. But then, you know, when we stepped on the scene, it was like everything else had to recalibrate. Yeah, because it was like the industry had never thought about having a band like this ever, you know. And how would you do that? You know, how would you find the talent, or how would you create that talent that could do this? And it took us with the fandom of New Edition, Guy, you know, knowing about P. Diddy, knowing about Dallas Austin, knowing about Teddy Riley specifically, you know, as well as the greats like the Temptations or the Drifters and things like that. So all of these things we were aware of, we grew up with, and we're going to actually put out there, and to have it, to package it the way that we did, and it gained that kind of I can't get my words out to say, and get that momentum, you know, that it did, and really hit the spot. You know, the routine had to sell that track. We there, you know, and the routine was just to support what the guys, what we already listened to and how we would, you know, dance in a club anyway, you know. But then we also needed to perform it the way that you would see an American band come over and perform it, but do it the way that we wanted to do it, you know, because the music wasn't pure swing beat, and it wasn't pure R&B, you know. Those were left to B-sides and remixes and whatever, but it was like 50% was all of that, and then the other 50% was like pop. So it fitted into that area of music where you're not quite sure if you're going to place it on an R&B chart or a pop chart, and it's now let's just place them on both.
Yeah,
it fit that kind of arena. But the response we got, you know, it was really, really moving, but immense at the same time, because it just propelled everything that we were doing, you know, to a higher level. So the audiences were getting bigger, and occasionally, if they were small, they would still get a big show performance, you know. We would back it up with the onstage attitude that we had. At being so comfortable at home, you know, and drop an a cappella whenever somebody wanted something, you know, or make something up on the spot, you know. It was, you know, when you're just dialed in, you know, that's what you do. It became that, you know, and we all played our parts immaculately well, you know, and even wanting to be an actor before wanting to do being in this position, I got the opportunity to be that person that could just step back a little bit, you know, and watch these guys perform and do what they'd always wanted to do since they were children, you know, and to be a part of that, and to help them sell that, you know, because it was all about the sell, it was all about the showmanship, man, but it was also about backing it up. You know, we could sing and dance all at the same time, you know, because we rehearsed that way, you know, and because they were our routines, we could pick and choose a live show how much of a routine we wanted to do or how much we didn't want to do. And that decision might just happen live on stage, or we might say it beforehand, you know. Whereas, you know, all the other bands, this is what we've rehearsed, this is what we're going to do, you know. You know, you watch those bands from those times, and it's like from beginning to end, that's their routine. We had that for TV, we did that for TV, you know, but when we went live, we did our own thing. When they went live ish, they did what they had been rehearsed to do, you know. There wasn't that element of freedom, and I think that energy was quite evident, especially with the fans, because then they would see that it was a different show. They didn't do that before, whatever. And you know, but it was I don't know, man. You know, I think me and the guys, we all get chills when we think about Party in the Park, and we headline that, and trying to leave the park, you know, became a mission, because the whole tour bus was surrounded, you know, and they wouldn't let us move, you know. Things just nuts, man, just nuts.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, no, it was the dream, you know, and especially at that time, because what I noticed, whether it's true or not, but what I noticed is that we were during the late 80s and early 90s, we were getting these summer hits coming from these American artists, and some of them had staying power to keep repeating and have lots of their singles released over here and things like that, and others were relegated to just summer hits. As soon as this country created their own girl band like Eternal,
Yeah.
we stopped hearing from En Vogue.
Yeah.
We stopped hearing from SWV. You know, it was just like, oh, we don't need that import anymore. We've got our own art band, which is the revenue. You know, I felt that in a way had was where we were. You know, we came in during that whole period. You know, we came in after Color Me Bad. We came in after oh my goodness, I'm trying to think now. All for One and things like that. You know what I mean? We came in long after those things. And the last ones to come through were K7.
Yeah.
Come baby, come baby, baby, come.
Come.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a tune.
And
I've got that on vinyl
it
still.
was. Yes. But it was that classic video, isn't it? It was that classic summer video, and it's just the guys rolling and stuff. And then and EYC.
You turn that video off and your mum comes in the room, sort of thing.
Yeah. So what's that song about? Nothing, Mum. Nothing.
Nothing. Just a tune.
Yeah. No, and also an EYC, you know, and they appeared on the Smash Hits Poll Winners Party the year before we came out. And if it was, and I'll always say this, if it wasn't for EYC coming out, Columbia Records would never have released I've Got a Little Something For You, because we were saying we want to release this track. They were saying it's a bit too gimmicky, it's a bit too, you know, and whatever and stuff like that. Saying, hang on, but that's what's happening, you know, and they wouldn't listen. No, the first single was going to be Baby It's You, and I'm thinking, for the first single, that, you know, that's you know, like that's close to dreary and mid-tempo-ish, man. You want to work your way into that, you know. And then EYC came out, and then it was like, yep, I've got something for you, you know. And yeah, we took control of everything to do with that aspect. You know, they gave us a choreographer, but what choreographer could you give us if no one's entertained having a band like this? You know, you can't give us a choreographer who then is going to choreograph our routines as if we would take that, because that's not the music and that's not the style, you know. Or it could have been anybody, E17, not music, not the style. And so after the first day of being given a choreographer like that, I had to make that call, because literally I'm like, I'm the only one here who could choreograph this thing. And I'm looking at the guys' faces, and they were like, man, look, we can compromise mixing a little bit of pop with what we're doing, but this could actually be soul destroying. You know? And you can see it on their faces. You can see, like, you know, this thing like, what have we done? You know, is this where it's going? If our friends and family see us dancing like this, this is all over. You know, and they didn't have to say that. You can read it, you know it. And so I called up First Avenue and said, no, we'll do this ourselves. You know, and I think a part of them were waiting for us to fail so that they could say, oh, look, we know what we're doing, we know this and stuff. And but fortunately, we didn't. You know, I knew what the guys could do and what they couldn't do and stuff, and it was just, you know, I think about it now, like I see clips of them and it's like, I'm like, I don't remember that in the routine. I don't remember that or whatever. So like, you know, because it's some things you're kind of thinking, all right, that was good. That was good. That was good. But yeah, there were just so many little things. And in the back of my mind, I'm just thinking, if we can be successful enough to have, you know, top 10 hits, you know, maybe a few albums or something like that, maybe it'll get to the point where I can still do my acting, because I still wanted to do that.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, well, what if, you know, you're doing a film and the guys land a concert gig? You know, it's just like, yeah, but at least it'd be cool for them to say, well, Dee isn't here because he's shooting a movie. those types of things, they're complicated behind the scenes because it's just like, what are we going to do? And I know T could probably do all my raps and stuff like that as well. So I used to think like that and think that far ahead. But it was still all about the show that we could deliver, because no one could do it. No one knew how to do it. They were slowly starting to break certain bands through, but they were trying to break them through when we were still reaching our arc. And so a lot of bands that were trying to come through, at best maybe got mediocre or lost their deals eventually and things like that, but it was just those days, man. I get taken back. I have flashbacks. I can't listen to the album. If I listen to the album, as soon as I start with the first song, I've got something for you. Within a matter of seconds, it's the last track, and I don't remember listening to any of those songs. All I remember is flashback after flashback after flashback after flashback, of being in the studio recording it, or a gig that we were at, or it's nice memories to have, but it's kind of they're deep.
Yeah. I mean, because you got to be on a Janet Jackson's tour. I mean, that's how big you guys got. I mean, she's a huge superstar. I mean, when I was looking up, I saw that and I was like, no way, Janet Jackson, that's mad.
We were in the middle of having an interview with Zig and Zag.
No, I remember Zig and Zag.
Yeah. Class act, man. Class act. We were being interviewed by the cream of the crop. Zig and Zag. We love Zig and Zag on Big Breakfast. And I think it was in one of the breaks, they turned around and asked us if there's any news, have we got any updates or anything like that? And we didn't, and then our manager put his head around the corner and says, tell them you're opening up for Janet Jackson, and we thought he was joking, and we were piss takers anyway. So we were just like, yeah, we're opening up for Janet Jackson and stuff like that, and then after, and then like, oh, really? We thought we were pulling one over on them. Yeah. Then afterwards, the manager revealed, no, you are. And then it turns out that everyone knew she was coming eventually, because she was on a world tour. But in the industry, they knew that she was looking for 4 acts. She was looking for 4 acts to open up for her. And Sony had sent her our videography or album and some stuff or whatever. And then she turned around and said, right, MN8, that's all I want. Yeah.
That's mad.
So within a matter of, was it? I think it might have been less than a month. We put together the opening for the show. Al Berlin, a stylist that we had early on back then, tracked down some stage clothes for us to wear. And Al, bless him, I think he's passed away a while back or whatever, but bless him, it got to the point where he turned around and he said to me, look, everything I'm turning up with, is either kind of wrong or whatever, or slightly in the ballpark, but come with me and let's pick some stuff out. So I went with him and we were picking stuff out. So he knew kind of what our style was. And then he said, you know what, you're better off doing this. You're better off doing it than me, because, and at the time, I didn't realize that he's giving up £500 a day to tell me that, I think you should do this. And I love him eternally for it, because at some point, at some stage, I ended up doing the styling for the band as well, but that was based upon knowing their style. We dressed like that anyway, and the fact that our routines could go from raunchy, up-tempo routines with I've Got Something For You, we could bring it down with some of those slower ghetto beats, that were hidden in pop. But we could slow down with those ghetto beats to do some Drifter-esque routines or Temptation-esque routines, but are still holding on to this what do you call it? This kind of honoring of the past. You know what I mean? So we give it out of respect. You know, we're going to keep this kind of uniformity. You know, with the way that we dress. We'll get loose with it or whatever. But it was part of that thing. We're saying, well, look, when you dress the same, it wasn't just neat and tidy. It was about being part of your clique, being part of your clan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in America, they would go to extremes and all wear the suits, whether it was New Edition and things like that, whatever, for their modern tracks. But we could do that with the street clothes. You know, the street clothes were, you know, as long as they were baggy, they'll still be smart enough, you know, to drop any one of those routines. And yeah, we kept that. And we knew, you know, at the time we knew some people were like, oh, they dress the same and blah, 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 blah. But knowing the history, you got to know the history of it, you know. White bands dressed the same because it was smart, it was neat, it was tidy. Yeah. Then some of the rock bands came out, you know, and gave it a little bit more freedom. You know, even the hippie bands, you know, gave it a little bit more freedom. But, you know, that uniformity technically is what most bands have at some stage or another, or had at that stage, just because of that kinship that they had, you know, that brotherly bond or sisterly bond. And so we were firmly in that, but we were pushing that to the extremes. You know, I remember picking up some Musto sailing gear, man, and selling the hell out of that, you know, and that was our version of Jodeci's scuba gear stuff that they wore on the cover of Diary of a Mad Band. You know, because Jodeci were massive influences on us. So whenever you heard us singing live, you heard our resonating tones that we had been practicing based upon what they had done. On the mics, what did I get them to do on the mics? On the mics, we would have this resonating tone. And occasionally, if we didn't have the band, it would be performed to ADAT. And then what we'd still do is have the bottom lines of, or the root notes of those harmonies, still on the ADAT. Still on the ADAT, but just as if it was backing singers you had, but just singing their single parts. Then we would layer on top of that, with our vocals, and it would resonate, you know, to the point that, you know, when the track ends, they take it out, we're still resonating, based upon what that note was doing. Just these little things, and I'd learned that from watching some New Edition documentary or something about Motown or something that mentioned them to some degree. So so things like that. We just played around with so many different things, you know. The band was, it's such a creative pop because the guys are absolutely 100% talented. Today, you've never heard anybody drop a vocal like KG. No one sings with vibrato, let alone sing in vibrato on R&B. And then we've got our Johnny Gill, Teddy Pendergrass, Cool T, getting ready to boost those bridges, you know. And then we've got our Charlie Wilson, Aaron Hall, G-Man, sitting right in the middle of all of that. And then I come in, and all I'm doing is either putting a baritone underneath that, giving that resonance, or covering a tenor if someone's singing there, doing an ad lib or something like that. And then when it came to raps, I would say I don't rap. I'd say I don't rap. I'm not a rapper, but it was about stringing hooks. I liked to string hooks, and was slow, and it slowly started to develop that more as we went into the Freaky album, like Talk to You, and even a B-side for Your Flavor. There's only a little bit of rap on that. But yeah, this whole thing with me was funkadelic. You know, I like Tupac because he came from Digital Underground, you know, and they were into
Yeah.
that P-Funk, you know. So yeah, it had to, for me, it slowly became a little bit more funkadelic in terms of how you're stringing these hooks together, or how you're playing with words. But dude, man, you asked an immense question right there. So you know, there's so many little things in all of that, you know, that went into the band, you know, to the point where, you know, just before we disappeared, you saw the clones coming out. You saw the clones coming out of the woodwork, and I was on the, you know, like Cool T, he's doing his solo stuff now, or whatever, and it's pretty, you know, he's made such a huge journey and a leap and everything, and it's beautiful. But I was talking to him on Instagram once, and he said, yeah, I remember we were at our roadshow, and 911 were performing, and you got pissed off because they were copying one of our moves. And I'm like, oh yeah, I wasn't pissed off that they were copying our moves. I was pissed off that they were doing it wrong. Yeah, because all of the bands that came out to Fabricate and become a part of that machine of just churning that stuff out, that manufactured stuff that was churned out, didn't have any soul. You know, if you're going to dance like us, know where the moves come from. You know, I can tell you where I took this move from. I can tell you the opening for our Janet show was inspired by Prince. Yeah, you know, nice. and at Prince's new tour at the beginning of Party Man, the Game Boys, Damon, Kirk, and Tony, were in their little zoot suit type things or whatever, and you heard this walk. You went clap, 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 clap. Oh hell, the new King Town, Party Man, right? And then it'll get into this track, right? And so at the beginning of our show, you know, we were stood in the dark, and then one after the other, the light would come down on one of us, and we'd turn around and do one of those locking moves, and then that walk would come out. Everybody get up and get down. MN8's in the house, right? But that get up and get down, that's from MC Hammer, yeah. But he wasn't singing about MN8, obviously. But that string and those hooks or whatever, it was all crafted, but it was crafted by us because we knew where it was coming from. When these other bands came out, you know, and they're doing these dance moves, and it's just like you're like, okay, so you were taught that 5 minutes ago, you know. It was what it was, but you know. You know, no one could know it. Can't nobody do it like MN8, and no one has done it like MN8 ever since. You know, but it did change the face of music after we came out. You know, then you had your Fives, then you had, you know, Blue, and then you had all these other bands, and you know, it was nice to be a part of that change in British music. You know, and I was speaking to somebody at Sony once, and they said, you do know you're the biggest selling international R&B boy band, black R&B boy band of the UK for the 90s, for 95, yeah. And I was like, no, I did not know that, you know, but that's forever, you know. And I'll take that, you know. Me and the guys will take that and say, thank you very much. Thank you for this great honor of entertaining your asses, you know. But no, it was so much fun. It was.
So what happened at Live and Kicking? You said to remind you about it.
Thank you, dude. Thank you. Right, now this is based on me being absolutely petrified of live TV. Yeah, and somehow it was a Halloween special. and I had been nominated to go and sit in this chair. Yeah. And who were the guys? The two comedians that they had on the show. Yeah. Trevor, Simon and Trevor. Yeah. That's it. I think it was. Yeah. And they were going to throw these things at me, and I was just gonna, these words or whatever. I was got to try and guess what the word was. Yeah. And it was all to do with Halloween. And as I'm walking onto the set to sit in place, like they're all filming. They're filming a bit, getting ready to do the crossover and coverage. And I'm sat there, and I'm surrounded by all these kids. And I said to one of the kids, "What's the secret word? You can tell me. I won't tell nobody." And the kid told me the secret word, and this girl next to him said, "Oh, you're not supposed to tell him." Right. And so the chair turns around, or it comes to me, and they say, "Right, the clock is ticking now." And they said something like Halloween, and I gave it a minute. Well, I gave it less than that. I was like, pumpkin. Yes, Dee's got it. Dee's got it. Yeah. And the thing is, with that, it meant that your face was going to be on that screen every week until somebody else got the question in a quicker time than you. And I think I was on there for about 6 weeks.
Nice.
But yeah, in my defense, it was because I was scared.
Yeah.
But yeah. So every week we had free promotion. We had free promotion on their show. Having my face on. Absolutely.
I mean, because obviously, like, I got a little something for you. It's such a big tune. Did you know that it was going to be featured in the film Bad Boys, or does that something you just watch the film and you suddenly realise, oh, that's Will Smith driving to my music?
Like I said, we were the first kind of pop R&B band, a legitimate pop R&B band, because we were 4 black guys, so any form of success that we were having was always overwhelming. We could hide that with our smiles and joking around or whatever, but on the tour bus or in the hotel room or lobby or something like that, we sit there like, whoa. Did you see that today? Did you see that today? And it's like, yeah. So what was nice is that when Columbia Records would do something, would get you on something like that, or do something for you, you would find out after the fact, and you would only find out after the fact if they were successful at doing whatever they wanted to do or get done with you. And so I'm not sure. I can't even remember at what stage it was we found out. It might have been the middle of '95 or somewhere. I can't remember when Bad Boys was released here, but all of a sudden, we were told, we've got you on a soundtrack, Bad Boys the movie. It's like, what's that? It's Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. And knew who Fresh Prince was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for it to be an American movie, and for it to be a big blockbuster movie, yeah. Ooh, goosebumps again. You've seen it. For it to be a blockbuster movie, that never happened to any of the R&B bands, to whatever degree, that came before us. And this was the new age. This is '95. This movie's being made by Jerry Bruckheimer. I think Don Simpson was working on it at the time. So that amazing duo, and amazing soundtrack. It took us by surprise. We had no idea. Sony gave us some T-shirts or whatever, some Bad Boys caps and whatever. Then we heard we were being flown to upstate New York, because Donny Ienner was having like an album showcase, a soundtrack showcase, and things like that. And I think we performed. We performed there. The dude lived in Harry Belafonte. I can't even say Harry Belafonte's house mansion. You know, acres. Yeah, white picket fence. It was like Dallas. You remember Dallas? You know, it was like that. You know, I remember the stage was at one end, the house was at the other end. Behind the house there was a golf course, and to the left-hand side there were some tennis courts, and I think there might have been a basketball court. I'm not sure. And they'd given us a golf cart buggy to drive around, which was the worst thing. Worst thing you could do. We drove that thing all over the place. I think we drove it into a ditch and stuff like that. And it was just, it was insane. But most of those people that were on that soundtrack were performing there as well. You know, and to be in New York, and to first of all go to Manhattan and do an interview with Right On magazine and Black Beat magazine. You know, those were the only sources to find out what was going on musically in R&B back in the 90s. And to be on the cover of that with all these other artists, that was a trip. Yeah. Also having photo shoots with them. Photo shoots with those magazines. Then being driven up to upstate New York for Donny Ienner's party. Dude, that doesn't happen. That just doesn't happen. You know, it doesn't happen that we do road shows and steal the show. You know, sometimes intentionally, but most other times it was just, you can't help that. Because of I think it was because of the gyrating hips. You work them up into a frenzy to a point. No, I think that's what was going on, right? Because you can't help what happens after that. You know, it is all on you after that, right? But you don't expect that. You know, you don't expect the TV shows to be clamoring for you. You don't expect to be in the A-list playlist for Capitol on Radio 1. Dude, as a kid, I mean, I used to listen to Capital Radio when I was getting ready for school and things like that, and all those DJs which were changing, you know. And at that point, when I was at high school or college, I think Chris Tarrant was running things. You know, so I know Chris Tarrant very well, you know, even from Tiswas, but this I felt like I knew him better from Capital Radio. And after, you know, I'm at home the day after performing, opening up for Janet Jackson, you know, maybe I think we're going back for another show that evening or whatever, but on the radio, I'm hearing Chris Tarrant say, the best thing about Janet Jackson show was MN8. They were amazing. And we had never met Chris Tarrant, and had no idea that anybody in that field could feel that way about MN8. You know, because we were on Janet's stage, but everything behind us is all covered and stuff. So other than us running about and singing and doing our routines and things like that, that's the only show that we had. And we had some sound effects playing, you know, and lighting effects and things like that. But for our 20-minute set for Janet, you know, it had to have that impact. So the first half was kind of up-tempo tracks, you know. Second half, you know, there was even an intermission for our set, where we change and put white shirts and sing Lonely and what I used to love that track, Lonely, you know, and get into the slow track, slow kind of like romantic tunes and things like that, and then end with I've Got Something For You on a big high. And that was the show, you know. But for that to be enough for somebody to think, oh my goodness, that was amazing, and especially it being Chris Tarrant, you know, I think I met him a couple of years later at the BBC. I think I was getting out of a taxi and he was getting in one or whatever, but I had to stop him and I just said, thank you. And he said, yeah, but it's true. But I had to look up to him. Dude's tall, man. You know, and he's looking down at me and said, yeah, but it's true. So, you know, that, you know, so many amazing moments, you know. And just to bring up Janet Jackson, you know, we made sure we watched every single show. You know, we didn't stay in the dressing room or anything like that. We watched every single show because you wanted to be able to look back in years to come and say, I not only did I tour with Janet, but I watched every single one because I was aware of the opportunity and the impossible circumstances that I'm in.
Yeah.
You know, you want to, you know, it goes a little bit VHS, your memory, after a while, you know, but you want to at least say I was recording at that time, you know. But Bad Boys, after that, there was a Bob Hoskins movie called The Rainbow, and they literally, I think they played the whole of If You Only Let Me In that movie, you know, and I only caught that randomly on Sky a good few years ago. I'm like, oh yeah, The Rainbow. Someone was saying we're on the soundtrack to that, you know, because it wasn't given that much hype because it was swallowed up by Bad Boys, really.
Yeah.
You know, so so to get to see that, and it's about this, and I can't remember what the movie's about. Some kid, he's running from one place to another, and it takes the whole of that track, and I'm like, okay, he's running for he's a marathon runner, man. But yeah, things, yeah, all those things, just so many little things. You know, you get to hang out with. You're hanging out with the Backstreet Boys. You're meeting Brownstone. You're meeting TLC. Jodeci come over, and on Tim Westwood's show, Tim Westwood says, are there any bands over here or artists over here that you're really looking up to and think are really awesome and things like that? And you know, Tim Westwood, he's plugging for who's the latest rapper you've heard about, or hip hop artist, whatever. And they turned around and just said MN8, you know. And then later on, we find out after the fact that Mr. Dalvin and KC remix Happy. And then once he did that, that's the only instrumental we wanted to sing to when we were performing live. But yeah, the Jodeci mix, yeah, that would be the one. You know? But you know, just, you know, and I've Got Something For You was the first remix P. Diddy ever did for Bad Boys Entertainment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know he got screwed. I know he got screwed on that deal, but we found out afterwards because, you know, he did about 9 mixes, and at least one of them was supposed to be the single mix, you know, and he was told that. And, you know, once it all got over here or whatever, they did whatever they wanted to do. But P. Diddy remixed one of our tracks.
Yeah,
you know,
mad. That's big.
Eternally grateful to all of these people, you know. And to, you know, and to stand side by side with some of them. You know, Kylie Minogue was introducing us on Top of the Pops. Oh my goodness. Kylie, bless her.
She's not very tall either, is she?
No, but you know, but it's just, you know, these, in that world, in that bubble, you have certain celebrities, certain actors, certain musicians, certain producers, you know, everybody is within this entertainment bubble, you know, and to be on the same show as some of these people, you know, and these people know your name, you know, where they've only got to know you over the press's coverage for the past month or so, and you've been watching them for years, you know. We loved Andy Peters on Live and Kicking. You know, it was just like, dude, what? you know, and by the time we get to meet him, he's not so, he doesn't come across so young and kind of, what's the word? Because kind of, you know, like he's not in control, like he's just there to get paid, but he's part of the production by the time we get to meet him, and he's full of confidence and he knows this and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, whoa, you know. The only person I wanted to meet, I didn't get to meet, was Phil Schofield and Emma. Who is it? Emma, was it? I can't remember Emma's surname.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember either. Like,
yeah. But you remember the face, though.
Yeah, I know the faces.
You know, I mean, they were the face of Live and Kicking. You know, we got to do the show eventually and met some other lovely people, but it was just like, oh, that would have been cool. But and it goes so fast, dude. It goes so fast that to kind of stop in the moment and take it all in is impossible. So everything's on record, on, you know, VHS, on long play. But you know, but yeah, you try and take it all in, because you can't take anything for granted, and nothing like this had ever happened for a band like us before in the UK.
Yeah.
So to be in that position, it was truly amazing.
I mean, obviously, so then the band days sort of they wound down a bit, and then you started moving back into acting. So can you tell us how, obviously, because you were in Batman Begins, so when did that come into play?
Oh wow. All right. So after MN8, I knew I had to find an agent. Like, I knew I had some kind of leverage behind me now, having come from the band. It was just whether it was going to be enough leverage to get me in the room, because it's music and not stage, and it's not TV and not film. And you know, it took me a couple of tries, and I think it was my second agent that I came across that really knew how to break me into auditioning and doing all those things. So I had done, I had an audition for my very first film audition was for Human Traffic.
Oh, I remember Human Traffic. Oh my God, yeah.
Right now, that's my very first casting. Yeah, I had no idea what they were throwing at me. You know, I thought, okay, I learned that script, I've got to say that. Okay, cool. They took the script away and say, oh, now wing it like you were just selling fish down the market. And I'm like, say what? Right? Sell me this record that I don't want, you know, and all of that. You know, I was so far away from any college training that could have prepared me for something like that, that casting didn't go well, man. I didn't feel like I got to do my best, because I was so out of my depth. And then when I saw a clip from that movie, because I still haven't seen it. It's on my list to see now, because it's been such a long time. But the black actor that they got in to do that part is so good. I'm like, oh, that's what they meant. You know what I mean? But that distance, you know, it was just like, no, the right person did get the job, but I really wasn't in the right place to be at that level to do castings like that. And so in between that, you know, I ended up doing Shakespeare workshops up in Camden, and then one at the Westminster Theatre. I think it's no longer there, but that was in Victoria in the West End. And then from that workshop, the director put me in 2 of his plays, which was Romeo and Juliet and a Scottish play. And so I got to play an array of characters in the Scottish play. Then I got to play Paris in Romeo and Juliet. Now, the only reason why I was getting into this Shakespeare stuff is because I'd seen Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet, which is still awesome, yeah? And the most awesome thing about it is I was watching it and I understood what was going on. Yeah, it's like I didn't need subtitles for this language that I thought that I was going to struggle with. And I got drawn into that. And then, yeah, little plays here and there, and then panto. You know, so I was doing panto, and it was 2 of those years I was reprising my 10-year-old character of the Genie of the Lamp, but this time he wasn't camp, he was like cool and American-esque, you know.
Yeah.
And then for the other 5 years I was playing Tommy the Cat in Hiss and Boo's Dick Whittington. And so that was creature and all that kind of stuff. I didn't know it was creature work, but I just thought this is just fun or whatever. And not only that, Hiss and Boo was owned by the late Ian Liston, who played Wes Jensen in Empire Strikes Back. And I didn't find that out until later on in the day as well. So there was this thing about Star Wars creeping in, you know, in these early things that I was doing. But then finally, I didn't do any extra work. But I was hired for Batman Begins because Chris Nolan wanted to hire some character support for the main actors. So you were going to get your main actors, character support, and then your supporting actors or the extras, right? But the character actors were literally were just actors he wanted in and around Gotham, so that if he gave them dialogue, he knew he was giving dialogue to an actor to perform.
Yeah.
So you know, oh man, there's a story for that, man. There's a story. I was, you know, I was in Malta chilling with my another family I love over there, the Caruanas, and I got back and my agent said to me, "Oh, Dee, I had to cancel a casting for you because you were away. It was for Batman." I was like, "What?" And she said, and I said, "Oh, can you still find out if they still see me today? And she says, "Yeah, I'll make that phone call. And so I come home, and then I get a message from Pauline, from my agent Pauline, saying, "Oh, they said, would you like to come in at 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock?" And I said 1 o'clock, because then I get time to shower because I've just got off the plane and everything like that. And she said, "Great." And I'm like, awesome, right?
Yeah.
And so while I'm getting ready, I'm kind of in my head thinking, you know, what could it be for Batman? What could it be? Maybe I'm a police officer or something like that. Maybe I see something I'm not supposed to. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what was that? anything. I was doing all of these things. And then I turn up at the casting, and I'm sat outside, and I hear the casting director saying to an actor, "Okay, imagine that you've just come across and you've just seen Batman and you're a police officer." And I'm like, I can do that, right? And then all I'm hearing from the actor inside is effing this, effing that. And I'm like, there ain't no effing in comic book movies, right? So I went in there. She told me that. She said she was going to give me 5 or 10 minutes to prepare or whatever. And I'm like, well, I got this. I already prepared, man. Did that at home, right? Did that, you know. On the way back, I called my agent and said, "Thank you for getting me the audition." You know, it was just like, at least I was seen. She calls me back and said, "Oh, I thought you were calling me to tell me that they had told you before they told me." I said, "Told me what?" "Oh, you're on set tomorrow morning." Right?
Nice.
So I was like, what? And yeah, and the rest is kind of history from there. I was as soon as I reached the set, I thought I was going to be playing an Arkham prisoner or something like that. And then every 5 minutes, I think it was the first AD, second AD, third AD, like, Dee Tails, there you are, yeah. You're not playing a prisoner, you're going to be playing a Gotham City police officer. I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Dee Tails, you know, all over the place. I'm like, yeah, got it. And yeah, they did literally have to pad me out. Yeah, because I'm a very small frame. So they put me in this bomber jacket and I said, nah, I took it off. Put on a bulletproof vest. Okay, now put on the bomber jacket. Okay, that's better. You know, give me this belt, this policeman's belt, which weighed a ton. It had a gun on there, cuffs on there. And I remember walking towards the airship hangar. Yeah. Where Gotham City was all inside. And as soon as I stepped in, my belt just went straight down to my ankles. Yeah. and I'm almost falling on my face. And then they had to come over and give me more support for that, because I don't have much of a waist. So that, but the first thing I remember hearing when I walked into that airship hangar was this, and it shook the whole place. And it was just like, that's the Batmobile.
Nice.
That right, dude, goosebumps. See, told you, right? But just being on the set for that, me and another guy, Andrew Price, another actor, we were just, you're like thinking, but they might give us some dialogue, you might get lucky. But they gave us some dialogue to one of our mates. So in that movie, I think it's Dominic, who yells up to Katie Holmes when she's on the tram station and asks if she's okay. And then once he got that dialogue, we were celebrating. Yeah, one of us got some dialogue, But that was such a great experience, and that by the time that experience was reprised again, was for Paul Greengrass, and it was for Captain Phillips. But by that point, I don't know. I mean, I loved Paul Greengrass. I obviously loved the Bourne movies. Just worship those Bourne movies. But I don't know. I just reached that point where it's just like, I've kind of been here and I've kind of done this now. To not be contributing of anything of significance and just being another part of that layer. That that after that, I said to my agent, no, I'm not doing any more of those. It was too much of a tease. You bring me onto a set, but I don't get any dialogue. You bring me onto a set, I don't feel like I'm really part of what's going on. So I called it a day on doing those. And I mean, like even in Batman Begins, there's moments where there's one particular moment where you'll spot me for a second, but I remember when they'd released, Ra's al Ghul had released the fear gas into Gotham, and then everybody sees this mutated Batman, but he was actually in that mutated suit. The suit was flawless. The suit was amazing. And the cape was this black velvet thing, and it was like, what? Just cut the mouth out, use that suit. And there's a moment where the crowd and the mob pounce on him, and in that split second you can see the silhouette of a policeman's hat or whatever, reaching over him or whatever and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, that's me. Right. So but to be a part of that trilogy in that minute aspect I think it was more about me climatizing and seeing if I could fit into that world. Because if I hated that, then it would be like, well, maybe I don't like that process. Maybe I just need to get a regular job, and go cook some burgers in McDonald's or something, but I didn't. The days that we were there were like the sunniest days in June or July. I had to cancel going to the Hyde Park concert of Simon and Garfunkel that my mate had, because we were like, man, that's gonna be a cool audience to be sat in, listening to that, And I remember being on set as that summer sun went down and stuff like that, and just thinking, okay, all right, so this is, another confirmation. This is really what I want to do. I want to be involved in things like this. And that's kind of where it went. It went from there, from Batman Begins to Captain Phillips, and I called it a day after that. Yeah.
So what was being on Captain Phillips like?
It was there was something very Bourne-esque about it, and you loved that. I was playing a UK MTO operator, the guys who watch the radar screens and things like that. And just watching how Paul was directing his crew, or how the second unit were directed to film it, or how they were gonna have the camera suspended on these ropes so you get a little bit of movement with it and things, and just you know, it was like being in a hub. The only thing, you know, being in a secret FBI or CIA hub, only we weren't looking for Jason, you know, we were looking for pirates. You know, yeah, and not Jack Sparrow either, but we were looking for pirates. So, you know, that was it was beautifully surreal to be a part of that. And I think we saw Tom Hanks once, and that was just when he was going from one stage to another stage.
Yeah.
You know, and he's a tall man. That guy's big, you know, like his movie. So it was that whole thing, you know, it was just kind of, you know, it was surreal. Let's say it was very surreal. And you know, in a way, I was gutted that I couldn't do more. I was thinking, well, maybe I could have been at Navy. I could have been SAS, man. You ain't going to listen to me speak. You know, I can do American accent, but you ain't going to be dialogue anyway. So, you know, I could have been dressed but look cool for something like that, rather than like the white t-shirt, the short sleeve and a tie and a little pin.
Yeah.
But that was another thing, to actually see that director in the flesh. See Tom Hanks in the flesh, you know, and not be fazed by it, you know, and think, you know, you know, I would like to hold a scene, or I could hold a scene with someone like that if it was written that way, you know, or I could be directed by somebody like that, because I understand what he's talking about when he's talking to the cameraman, you know, and I'm listening. You know, there was this thing where that kid in me that liked to watch that behind the scenes stuff is always there and always present. Yeah. So whenever something's being filmed, I do like to take it all in. I do like to watch, you know, and I see it all, you know, like widescreen, and so I just pick what's going on. I'm just like, oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. But I could do that for hours. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things.
So it really sort of cemented like that you want to take your acting to the next level, really, being in Captain Captain Phillips, sorry.
No, no. I already knew that by that stage. It was Batman that did that.
Yeah.
You know, and watching Chris Nolan, but also myself and the other actor Andrew Price, we would constantly patrol Gotham, you know, in the breaks, you know, after lunch. You know, we couldn't just sit on the side and just have our chat or read our book or whatever like everyone else was doing. We had to patrol that set, because look where you are.
Yeah.
You know, look what they built from the ground to the ceiling. You know, you're seeing a dent in the car, and you're being told that Buster the stuntman for Batman had just been set on fire, and he had to fall out of a window and land on the roof of that car. And you're just like, whoa, you know. But you get into character. You walk around like a police officer. You know, you got your hand on your belt, kind of thing, just walking around. You know, and looking up at the clotheslines. They had clotheslines above, you know, that you probably never saw in the movie, with washing hanging on it. It was so immaculately all done. And seeing Katie Holmes, and she's tall, man. Katie Holmes is tall. I mean, I used to love watching Dawson's Creek. Yeah, that was one of the, you know, that's one of my guilty pleasures, just because of the way it was written. But seeing her, and then Andrew and I stood mesmerized as we watched. What was his name? Who played Commissioner Gordon?
I was just talking to someone about him the other night, actually.
Is it his sister who's Kathy Bates?
I think so. He's done loads of stuff, hasn't he? Now.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name for life. I know who you're talking about, but I can't remember his name.
And he was.
I'll flick up a picture of him in this scene so people know who we're talking about.
Yeah. and apologies for forgetting his name, but as a legend, as an artist, as an actor, we got to watch him, yeah, perform some dialogue to some other actors or whatever, based around this breakout at Arkham. And it was the rehearsal take, then it was another rehearsal take, and then it was just like, oh, let's do a recording take, you know, camera's rolling take, not a recording take. They were doing all these takes, and in each take he was either adopting a different pose or turning into turning into the conversation or whatever. And as actors, we were like, he's given the editor so many options.
Yeah.
Because even with some of these rolling takes, you know, they might decide they want to use that, you know. But watching him, we were absolutely mesmerized and got a free acting lesson from watching him do that, you know. And so it was that, you know, that was one of the best things I could take away from Batman Begins, you know. And that was just from watching him. I got to remember his name, got to remember, you know. But I know he was in Dracula, wasn't he? He was in Dracula.
In Harry Potter as well.
Yes. Yes, that's it. Yeah, that's the one. You know,
I can't think of it is.
He was Harry's uncle, wasn't he? Harry's
he gets killed.
Yeah, he turns into a wolf.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Oh, I almost had it there. But yeah, you know, that was beautiful. I mean, it was like you have these aspirations, you have these dreams, yeah, when you're a kid, say, well, I want to do this, I want to do that, and depending on how close you get to it, it will either kind of draw you in and say, yeah, that is what I want to do, or maybe I don't want to do it that way, maybe I want to just tweak it and go this way, or maybe I want to do something completely different, you know. And so it was moments like those that just confirmed what you wanted to do. And that's why by the time I got to Captain Phillips, you know, I already wanted to do more than just be character support.
Yeah.
You know, with no guarantee of dialogue. And then even if you do get dialogue, there's no guarantee that it will make the cut. You know, so it was you know, it was interesting, and I just felt like, you know, maybe I'm on the right track, and I'll get something of some worth to me at some point soon. You know, just living in that kind of hope, but just staying in that ballpark. So even with the castings that I would get, you know, I would turn down various casting or various acting jobs, even if I needed the money. Yeah, but it was because it wouldn't get me in the right direction. Me doing an advert isn't going to increase my chances of being seen by a casting director for a feature film. You know, or at least that's how I perceived it at that point. And so yeah, those two movies were very significant. One confirmed what it is that I wanted to do, and the other one reinforced what it was I wanted to do, because I wasn't doing, you know.
Because then obviously you moved into Jekyll and Hyde. So what was that like, being on the set of Jekyll and Hyde, and obviously moving into that character you played in Jekyll and Hyde, because you played quite a bizarre character in that.
Yeah, but that came after my filming obligations for Force Awakens. Yeah, so while Force Awakens was having its year being put together and edited and so on and so forth, this casting came through, and I don't know, man. It's because it's fantasy, isn't it? It's that sci-fi fantasy, and I dig that stuff, man. I told you I dig that stuff, and to be offered the opportunity to take part in in that TV series with an interesting type of character, that was right within my ballpark. And I remember in my audition, you know, I knew how I wanted to deliver the character. It was hard learning the character because you have to separate that depth. Like, you can go too deep with what the dude is saying, you know. This is like, it's like, nah, these, remember, it's pretend. It's just pretend. We ain't challenging nothing here, you know. And so I remember I said to the guy, okay, can we draw the curtains? And we drew the curtains. We turned off the lights. There was some passage lights on that you couldn't turn off or whatever. And then he said, the camera's going to be here. And I said, well, okay, I was wearing my black shirt. So I turned up my black collar on my shirt, did it up, because they only needed to see the head, because the rest of the body was going to be CG. And so I said, right, I'm going to lean into here and do it like this. And so he then adjusted the camera. So I kind of knew how I wanted him or the directors to see what it was that I was going to do, rather than just sit there and whatever. And they said you could use the voice as well and all that type of stuff. And I remember doing that. And afterwards I looked back and I was like, dude, you owned that casting. And I was like,
nice.
Yeah, I did. You know. But it just seemed so natural. It seemed like such a natural thing to do, you know, especially for what you were going to present. And so I delivered it. And you know, part of me thinks it's 50-50. Like, they knew that I just come from Star Wars. They didn't know what the hell it was I did on Star Wars, but Force Awakens was coming and Star Wars was coming back, and it's just like, yeah, we'll have him, right? and then the other 50% was they must have liked what I did, because it was pretty much what I did in the casting, which I did in the show. And dude, that was just such a beautiful experience and production to work with. You know, the wardrobe for the supporting cast and the actors and actresses was absolutely sublime, and the location where we were shooting some of that Harbinger sequence that have captured all these kind of anomalies, you know, was spot on. It was just like, did this place come like this, or did you dress this place this way? You know, it was really, really cool. And Richard E. Grant was on that show as well, you know, and I got to spend time with a guy called Hayden, and he used to work for DNEG. He now works for Lucasfilm now. You know, he's like, well, of course you do, Hayden, you know. But realized that, you know, we would talk through how we were going to see this character, the Harbinger, who's half man and half dog, you know, beast. And they described that he was going to be hairless, you know, and it was going to be like he's almost riddled with mange, but you can't really tell that type of stuff or whatever. But there was something very, very demonic about this creature, even though he wasn't a demon as such, other than just the appearance, you know. And also, I might be a little bit biased, but you know, at the same time, he was that soothsayer. You know what I mean? He was that character that would give the prophetic exposition that would be very, very useful, which meant that if they were doing a second season, you know, Harbinger would be back, you know, he would have come back, you know. So there was that security with the type of character he was and his place within that show. But just getting to perform that, knowing that Hayden is taking care of the body, so I can give him as much of what kind of movement I think I would be doing if I was lower down, you know, so that they can know that the the dog is kind of like scuttling about, when he's saying these things, because I was wearing a green top around my neck. I had my jeans on, so it didn't have to be, full length, but I had my jeans on, and my face was painted, by Emma, I think her name is, and it was just also being able just to emphasize and enrich this dialogue with all this prophetic demon speak, shall we say, and it was just it was an awesome experience. I think I did about 4 episodes, I think, but that was my first terrestrial show. Jekyll and Hyde. The cast were absolutely amazing. The writer, the director, I think now something like that could get a second season on Netflix.
Yeah, I think it needs to be picked up.
What's that?
I think it needs to be picked up, Jekyll and Hyde. It definitely does.
Yeah, because you watch it and you can see the legs on it, and ITV had never done a show like that, especially one that was going to be in the newspapers the next day and people complaining about the hour that it's on and the time that it's on, and it's too scary, and have my face in there and have somebody else's face, but the thing is, it's not even like I'm wearing prosthetics, it's just my painted face can be black and white and you're just scared of my face, it was nuts. So but all of that hype and everything to do with that show was just so lovely and affordable for ITV to do. And you get that point, well, do you want to make good TV or not? No? Okay. Netflix. And if they ever came back for a second season and stuff, I would jump at the chance to be a part of that. But that was everything in a nutshell. The fantasy world, the gothic nature that they decided to take Jekyll and Hyde down in terms of its presentation and its look and its feel. The actors that they had were just awesome, and that's what it meant to feel like you were a part of something. I remember one of the supporting actors coming up to me. I think we were filming one of the last scenes that I did, the breakout, and he just said, "Your diction and your dialogue is amazing." And if you're doing something good, a director doesn't necessarily tell you anything, but if someone out of the blue just comes and points that out, then it's like, yeah, you're thinking, yeah, I worked on that. I'm glad someone picked up on it. I'm glad someone can understand what I'm saying. That was lovely.
Yeah.
But yeah, it fit right into my ballpark. It was that fantasy world, man. I'll play anything you want in a fantasy world, within reason, of course. But it's I mean, one of my dreams is, I don't know the reality of it, but I always wanted to be a part of Pirates of the Caribbean. Always wanted to be a part of that. I love Johnny Depp. Love what Johnny Depp, and I love the writing. The writing of that, it shows the difference between whether you were raised on British humor, whether it was Morecambe and Wise, whether it was Carry On, or anything like that. You will get that humor that they drop. Like, I'll be in the cinema, and loads of people that just go, and I'm just cracking up because I'm like, those guys are funny. Those guys are just nuts, but it was just played so real and so well. I loved that. And it had that perfect blend of fantasy as well.
Yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean was an awesome watch. I mean, hopefully they're going to be doing another one, so.
Yeah, but I don't know if I'm going to feel the same if Johnny's not in it. It'll be just what it is. But it's like some films. It's like Tobey Maguire and Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies. Yeah, only 1 and 2 exist for me. and that's all I need. That's all I watch,
Yeah.
and it could end up being the same for Pirates of the Caribbean, if Johnny's not there. But yeah, man, just that world that doesn't come up that often. It reminds you of also, do you remember watching on the summer holidays, like Jason and the Argonauts or Clash of the Titans
Yeah.
or something? It had that feel, and even the first Pirates of the Caribbean, and they had the skeletons under the water. I'm thinking, hey man, we could do a new Clash of the Titans or something.
Yeah.
They did, and it wasn't that good, but we could do a better one. We could do a
Yeah.
Sinbad, But yeah, things like that are always percolating, because I did grow up with that Ray Harryhausen entertainment value as well,
So when was it? Obviously, Star Wars started to come into play into your acting life. So obviously, you already mentioned that you did it before Jekyll and Hyde. So what was your first roles in Star Wars, and when did you get called up for that?
That came off the back of, I like to say it came off the back of some of the pantos that I was doing, because one of the guys that was working on the panto ended up working on Star Wars and mentioned me to Neil, and during that whole period of time, I knew Star Wars was coming. I knew there was going to be new Star Wars, but I keep saying this. I've said this before. I wasn't gonna get in that queue, man. I wasn't gonna get in that queue and audition for that. Because there's nothing more soul destroying than thinking that you possibly haven't the talents to cover whatever they need for this franchise. But you know what? They're casting based on what you look like, or this is just percolating in my head. I'm going to cast you based on what you look like, rather, or anything like that. And so you may never have had a day's work acting job in your life, and you may get cast in that, and then, they'll have to be like, okay, I didn't get that. Okay. I'm thinking, I don't want to put myself through that. And I really wanted to be seen for the prequels. But then it dawned on me that was going to be impossible, because they were shooting, was it in Australia? Yeah, Australia rather than New Zealand, isn't it? Shooting on Australia. I'm thinking, they're not flying a nobody over to Australia for Phantom Menace, man. They're going to get some people, some names. And so, that whole trilogy came and went, and like most people thought, well, that's potentially the end of it. No more Star Wars, but so this time round, I was avoiding it in that regard, because also I normally get seen for most projects that come through, or I was at one point for the Hubbard's casting. Dan Hubbard would normally get a hold of my agent and say, oh, can Dee come down or whatever. And I wasn't seen for 24, and when they were shooting over here, and Avengers Age of Ultron was shooting just partially here and some in Europe. And I'm thinking, they ain't got no parts for me in that, there's nothing for me to do in that, I could pretend to be Groot, man. I could be a twig of Groot, but you haven't even introduced Groot yet. So, it just, there was nothing. And then Star Wars is like, nah, nothing. And then I get this phone call, and Neil wants to see me at Pinewood. I'm thinking, could be, oh my goodness, I've got might be an audition, must be a casting or something or whatever for this thing. So I get down there, prepare for some kind of casting of some kind, and I'm whisked straight into the workshop. First thing that I see, first person that I see is R2, stood right there, and I just froze to the spot, just froze. And the guy's working in the corner, is it Justin Pithalecki? He laughs and he says, yeah, that happened to me too. And then I said, can I walk past? And I'm supposed to be following this person. This person's gone on, but I can't walk past R2 without permission, because now, I have not only just signed non-disclosures or anything like that. If I was to look around, I could see drawings of things that I'm not supposed to see. Or don't want to see, because then it's a secret I've got to keep in my head. It's like, I saw something. You know what I mean? And so had a fitting for one of the Husk Wolves like Paul Warren gets to play Varmic, and you see two of these greyish wolves in Maz's castle, but there was going to be a gang of them. And so, yeah, brought in straight into a fitting. I'm like, you're kind of just being led along, and you're saying, at some point you're thinking, is this a casting? What's going on? What's going on? But it's moving too fast. It's like, oh, well, let's measure your head, let's measure your chest, this, and then all this type of stuff. And I was like, okay. And then eventually, I was told that they had changed their minds about the wolves, but then Neil had said, you know what, let's see if we can find Dee something, you know. But I wasn't going to hang on that, yeah, because that's just a tease. Just don't, you know, I've just missed out on this thing. Let's see if you find me something. That doesn't sound very reassuring, right? So I'm just like, no, let me just celebrate that I was seen for Star Wars. Yeah, I'm celebrating away in my head. And then I get this phone call and said, well, you know, how would you feel about working on your knees? It was like, Star Wars, yeah. You know. And then I started coming in for these various stages of fittings for what would become Kratinus, and I'm meeting the person that would be my twin brother, Tom Bell, who would be Prashi, and we both met when we came in for the wolves fitting, you know. So they had our measurements and everything, and it just started creeping on from there, you know, until it was, you know, they said we had the fitting. We thought, okay, all right, they're going to tell us when we're filming, I guess. And they said, no, he said, well, there's a show and tell next week. And I was like, what's that? You know, and they said, well, JJ will come in with his team and he'll pick and choose who he wants to see in the film and stuff. So then I'm realizing, oh, so we haven't really got we haven't got this yet. Okay. And then that day came, you know, I'm in this room with puppeteers. This is the behind the scenes. This is the dream, you know. I'm not watching it on TV anymore. This is behind the scenes. I'm seeing the puppeteers under the table. I'm seeing these puppets up there. I'm seeing these mosquito creatures. I'm seeing this big dude sat on the couch. I'm seeing all these things, and then I see Warwick Davis, and I'm like, this goosebumps. Right? So I'm like, whoa, this is Star Wars. And then one of the puppeteers comes up and introduces himself to me, and it's Dave Chapman. And he says, you won't remember me, do you? I'm like, no. He says, when you were in your band, right? Like, oh shit. Right? He goes, when you were in your band, you came on the show we were on, and it was What's Up, Doc, and I was one of the wolves. And I'm like, no way, right? And the reason why I remember them, right, is because the other guy was Dave Barkley, I think it is, and he did some operating of Jabba the Hutt, and did some stuff for Yoda, I think, at some point or whatever. And I had him sign one of their cards so I could put it in like the box, the video VHS box of Empire Strikes Back, because they knew I was a fan of Star Wars. Now I'm meeting the other dude. Now I'm meeting the other wolf, yeah? And he's not only up to his neck in Star Wars, he's the one who operates BB-8's head, as well as doing some other puppetry. And so I'm just like, this is amazing. And Tom and I had dialed in really, really well on the dynamics that we were given for the characters from Aidan Cook and Paul Casey, you know, and so we knew it. We had this, you know, like they say, man, I got this, yeah. And I literally did, because all I had to do was laugh all the time and react to Tom. But I did that from the moment Neil said creatures come alive till the time JJ came in, was walking around or whatever. While he's doing all that, we're still cracking up. We're still doing our thing or whatever, you know. Then he gets to us, and then they leave, and then Neil says creatures end or whatever. I take the head off. I'm sweating buckets, and all around me everyone's laughing, you know, because it was that infectious. You know, you don't expect that at show and tell. You think it's all nice and quiet or whatever. No, you got this little dude cracking up 24/7. You know, and then Neil just said in front of all of these people that who the ground that they stand upon, I worship. You know, he said to the puppeteers and everybody, and let's give Dee a round of applause for just carrying on. You know, and I could have cried right there and then. You know, but that was the cementing of that relationship between myself and Neil, and JJ's appreciation of those two characters that ended up in that movie. Because even on the day of filming, the first AD was saying, okay, and you guys are going to be over here playing your game or whatever. JJ rushed over and says, no, we'll set them later. They need a hero moment. Goosebumps. so from the time you're being told you're getting a hero moment, you know, that's one thing. But then all the way throughout the rehearsals of that day, you know, staying in character and just cracking up, and the crew walking past and laughing and joining in, and the other, and some of the extras joining. It was just, that's to me what Star Wars is about. You turn up on a Star Wars set, that's what you want to see, unless you're on an Imperial barge or something like that or whatever. You know, you want to walk into a tavern or something like that, and you want to see aliens and you want to see Star Wars. And there was nothing more disarming than a little alien dude that's just cracking up all the time. You know, it was the heart. I don't know, there was so much heart in the synergy of all of that. And I wouldn't have had it any other way. You know, if that's the only thing I'm going to ever do in Star Wars, you're getting all of me, because that's what Star Wars means to me. You know, and from what I've seen of behind the scenes, and to be part of something like this, it fits, you know. So that was that.
I love how it's all come full circle for you for this, and obviously with this moment in Star Wars. Obviously, you grew up watching the behind the scenes of puppetry, and now you're part of it, and it's all just how it's all fallen in. So
yeah, one of the main memories I had was watching one of those behind the scenes, and it was to do with the battle on Endor and the Ewoks and the troopers. And you know, they were all sat around and walking around, and the Ewoks had their heads off, and the stormtroopers weren't wearing their helmets and stuff like that. And the first day I'm backstage of Maz's castle, and it's like that. Everybody's half in their creature suits and things like that. And it's just like, whoa. And that was on top of seeing some picture put up by Lee Towersy and Oliver Peoples, who were brought in to do R2, and telling me about R2 Katie, you know, and that just sums up the heart of Star Wars, because that deserved to be there. You know, this is what Star Wars means. It means more than just, you know, the career, or it means more than just what you're presenting. It's what it means to other people.
yeah,
You know, and how much it means. And you know, that moment where I just got to see everybody like that was absolutely surreal. You know, and yeah, the flashbacks just an imprint. You know, I remember meeting Kieran Shah there, and little Artie, and Paul Warren, you know, and Nathan Plant. See, I'll just go on, but you just remember meeting them all for the first time in that circumstance, you know. And that was the thing. Like, some of the days were going long, and we had extra days to shoot because Harrison had hurt his leg the week or two before. And so again, I couldn't sit there behind and just sit there and wait in between takes or whatever. I had to be somewhere where I could see something, either see the monitors or take a look at what they were shooting, you know, to the point where I was allowed, you know, but just being able to take it all in. Take it all in.
Nice. So there, obviously, did this all lead into Rogue One as well? Did this help you get into Rogue One? And become a character called L1.
Yeah. It was, man, I don't know. Neil gets me. I don't know how else to say it, but I think Neil gets me as a performer. Like, he knows, and I think he gets all of the creature performers in terms of knowing what suits to put them all in. And I remember that I remember being told that Gareth Edwards was told, you're getting Nathan Plant and you're getting Dee Tails. Yeah. And I wasn't sure, I'm not sure how it was going, but if they were trying to work out the size wise and things like that. But then Nathan ended up being a lot of the classic Imperial kind of droids that you would see about, but I think they're called RA droids or something. So he was getting to be those droids, and a silver one and a black one. And I was being kitted up into this L1 suit that was going to be K2SO.
Yeah.
Right. So I knew about the part. I knew what it was that I was going to be required to do to a point. But in the costume tests, that's when I think they started to think outside of the box regarding restrictions and how fast I could move in that suit, or how that move, or what that suit actually conveys in terms of personality or anything like that. And so that went on for a good long while. So that suit was literally made centimeters, millimeters to fit me. And was an awesome suit, was the most amazing droid suit I could have ever dreamed to have been in. I could breathe, I could see, and the suit wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold, man. It was Goldilocks, man. It was like, and also we were shooting outside in semi-summer weather, so where in between the panels, it's just a body suit. So I was getting air to my body. The visor that came across, the eyes that came across like that with the rails and the lights in there, was totally all see-through. So air was coming in, and my eyes could be behind those lights, but I could still see.
Yeah.
And the jaw piece, when it was off, it made me look like I'm RoboCop, man. So cool. But then they would slot back in with these magnets, and then underneath it would have these perforations where I could actually breathe, get some more air in. And as things developed, it became clear that something else was happening with K2SO and L1 and L1's association with that. And what was it? It was, there were like all these little ideas and these things that they were going to do with this droid and stuff like that. But then one day I turned up and I saw Alan Tudyk going into Lucasfilm, and I'd heard that he was going to be doing the voice, and I think I just heard he was going to do the voice at that moment in time. And then later on, finding out that he was going to actually be playing in this character and things, I was like, oh wow. And then I didn't know what that meant for me.
Yeah.
I didn't know what that meant for me, right? So I was just like, I was still celebrating, because I was a part of a development process. And it's like, if you watch that on a behind the scenes on a DVD or something like that, you'd still say, man, I could have done that. I would have loved to have done that, and then I'm like, hey, I was doing that, right? So I'm finding these gems in some of these moments that aren't obvious moments, right? But it was when I was on set and I was hanging with the kids. There were two little Asian girls, and they were just staying in character, and talking to me. And I had my droid voice going and stuff like that, and I was talking to them. And we took a break. There was a break. And then after that break, it was like, you know, their keeper, the person that was looking after them, said, oh yeah, there you go. Oh, go and see your friend, the droid, you know. So they all came running over it. You know, my heart, you know, I'm getting a lump in my throat, you know, the heart of just seeing these kids coming over, and we're on a Star Wars set, and I'm in character. I haven't dropped playing character for these children. And that moment was captured and put into the movie.
Yeah.
You know, and there's so much emotion in it while I was in the suit for that moment, as well as seeing that moment. You know, it was just like, whoa, that's the best thing you could have done. You know, and then Pablo Hidalgo wrote this amazing thing about the droid in the Visual Dictionary. You know, how he spends his time looking after the street urchins and things like that and whatever, and looking for a deeper sense of spirituality. You know, like whoa, that droid is deep, man. You know, so all of that was just. There was some kind of synergy in the whole process, you know. Like even when I turned up and they said, you know, your part's been changed a little bit, the first thing I said was, you still need me though, right? They said, yeah. And it was just for those couple of seconds, you know. And then later on, then when they were adding some more shots to the movie, they painted the same droid suit red, and then you'll see me cross over in the alleyway. You know, you see these two eyes and cross over in the alleyway. But that moment they put in there with me and the kids, that's just golden. You know, that wasn't even shot during action. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to capture that moment sums up that magic of Star Wars a little bit for me. But that was Neil. Neil just knew that I could deliver that and put me straight in line for that, you know. And to this day, you know, that costume was an absolute joy to wear. There wasn't one part of that costume that was uncomfortable. And also it forced me to, because normally if you put on a droid suit, you might want to adopt that protocol droid. You know, and look, and in turn, and then look, you might want to, but because his visor was more horizontal landscape, and I think he was a manumitted tactical droid. Yeah. You're thinking for his view, it would be more like this, you know, less humanized. Yeah. And so I had all of that dialed in and stuff like that. And, you know, when you see that bit in the film and the kids are running up, you're not seeing me apply any of that.
Yeah.
you're seeing me get excited because the kids are there or whatever. And yeah, those few seconds, every time I see that, it's just like, oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, just these magical moments that happen. But that came directly after, I think, Neil seeing that I got it and I understood it, the process, and there wasn't a complaint from me. There was never an unavailability from me situation, and how much giving I understood I had the ability to do tandem with Tom in terms of entertaining the crew.
Yeah.
You know, you're not just entertaining the crew, you're bringing to life someone's design, someone's character, you know, and ultimately a character that Neil thought was good enough to put in front of AJ in that show and tell. You know, like he stands behind everything that he puts out there. You know, and to see us come alive like that, and with the kind of creatures that we could just keep going. whereas other people might need to take their heads off a lot more. And the funny thing is, we were sat right next to a massive fireplace, right?
Yeah.
Think, man, these guys are cooking, but that foam and all that stuff, it protected me from all of that heat. So you had no idea that there was any, well, it felt toasty, right? But it wasn't unbearable. It was quite cool. But to know that we could,
you weren't sweating buckets basically in the suit.
yeah, you know what I mean? So, it was toasty, but it wasn't unbearable, because I know we did have fans occasionally, and they did turn it down occasionally in between and things like that. But it takes a lot to put anybody in any of these suits, and some of it is about overcoming being able to see, being able to hear, being able to breathe sometimes, you know what I mean? All these things, you find a way around and you cope with these things. And that comes with the territory, comes with the job. You can't put these things on and freak out because it's not perfect. And that's what happens. There's this synergy with all the creature performers, that we're all in the same boat, and we can all handle it, to a point,
Yeah.
and that's what comes with that job, and we love it for it.
Because obviously the wardrobe, like the suit that you got to wear in Solo, was that a lot more different? Because I imagine that must have been a bit more heavier to wear in. What was it like working on Solo? Was it as Quay, was it?
Quite okay, because there was 3 suits. I think I did 3 characters on Solo. But Quay's Quay, man, that costume was a mixture of wool and silk. Yeah. I was told they were melted together and stuff to get the shapes and everything like that. And there were 1 yellow layer, 2 the main suit, I think, and then 3 was the cape and the thing that went over the top, over the back. Yeah. And as well as the helmet. And it was heavy. Yeah, that material was heavy. But it was I barely noticed it. It was one of these things where, man, there's too many things to be paying attention to even worry about that suit, and you could put me in something a lot more difficult to manage, and it'd be the same responsibility, working on Star Wars. But the thing is that I had found out at some point that this character is a Pike, and I knew the Pikes from the Clone Wars. Yeah. And I'm like, I know these guys, yeah, and luckily they'd given me a set of keys, because it was gonna be Quay Tolsite. It's gonna be Quay Tolsite, because he's holding the keys, yeah. But it got lost in translation in America, and then it's stayed that way, and it works now as a play on words, yeah. But it just works that way. But because I was holding these keys, it meant that I could hold these keys the way that the Pikes normally would move their hands anyway, because it's very T-Rex, very T-Rex in a way. And so that helped me hone in on what I knew of those characters. But the following day, just across here was just aching. And luckily on set, there were these guys that worked at Craft who were also masseuses. So they were offering massages and things like that. And this girl just massaged my shoulders, whatever, and it just released it all. And then it was like, oh, and then like back in the suit, and it was much more comfortable. But yeah, just Quay as a character and his attitude and stuff was a joy, you know, within the circumstances that he was in, you know, and the helmet itself, I could see again, man. I don't know how lucky I'm getting that I can see, but whether LED's armor eyes are behind those, there's a bit of black mesh there. The
Yeah.
shape of that head, you know, that gold plate isn't fixed in like that. There's black mesh in between the gaps of that helmet. So air's coming through. Yeah. And I can see, but I am being nailed into the helmet, as it were. Like at the back, it would be screwed in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't take that head off like that unless someone unscrews it. Yeah. Right. So there was that, but it was, I'm looking, you know, my scenes, I'm told what type of guy I am. These people have come to my planet, you know, I don't care what they want to do here, but they ain't leaving, and that ship is mine as far as I'm concerned, you know. So while that's going on, I'm taking part in, you know, when you're watching these heist movies, you know, and you're seeing this thing, click, 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 and these moments or whatever, it became clear that it was going to be one of those moments. Yeah, it was very, very quick, even from the time where, you know, he thinks he's going to capture Kira, you know, in his office and a droid or whatever. Just, you know, how quickly she takes him down, kind of, you know, kind of, you know, sums that up, you know. And I will forever be able to say I've had my butt handed to me by the mother of dragons, you know, and I wouldn't have it any other way, you know. But that was great to be part of that, you know, and to be and for Neil to give me that. So I think that came late on in the day. I don't think that was on my list of characters to play. So I think I thought I'd finished maybe after the Sabat game. And yeah, you know, and he didn't know that I knew who the Pikes were. You know what I mean? You know, Jake, who drew it, didn't know I knew who the Pikes were. But it all just seemed to fit. And, you know, one of my favorite things about that is, you know, when you're part of these things, it's just like, you know, the camera's rolling, you know, and it's just like, well, okay, I'm going to do my thing. If it's not right, they'll tell me it's not right or whatever. But I was, you know, I was so sure that I had this dialed in, that, you know, when it came to closing that door, when they told me that, okay, we're going to do a close up of the key going in there, you know, and then the door's going to close, and you know, Star Wars doors, they close quite quickly, right? I'm like, yeah. And so put my key in there like that, and turned it, and they had said Q door or whatever. That's when I just looked, and then you get that line going boom across there, and I'm like, you better keep that in. You better keep that in. You know, and I'm in a scene with Woody Harrelson, and he's dressed in Lando's gear. Oh my goodness, you know, that helmet hid more of my emotions than you could possibly imagine. You know, yeah, I recognize Lando's gear. It's just like, oh, but you know, and then it's Woody Harrelson. Woody Harrelson's wearing this stuff, and then I get to watch Woody Harrelson just pew, 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 just, you know, and I know he was alternating with Andy Lister, the stunt guy. You know, my stunt guy was Darren Knopp. You know, you know, feel like you've got family forever once you've had a stunt person. You know,
of course.
You know, and these guys are just so awesome at what they do. You know, the guy who was doubling Han Solo, yeah, he's Spider-Man. You know, it's just like, what? You know, these people, this world, you know, and you contribute to it. and you're all like these tiny cogs in this massive mechanism that creates such entertainment. You know, it's just mind-blowing. But yeah, Quay is just no. Well, that's why I think, you know, by the time we get to The Rise of Skywalker, because Solo was the last one that I did.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking, well, I obviously peaked, you know, I obviously peaked on Solo or whatever, you know, and then I get to step back and watch The Rise of Skywalker, and then watch The Mandalorian, and I'm back to being that fan again, you know,
Yeah.
just wondering if the past few years that were actually real and actually happened, you know. So yeah, it's just, yeah, it's beautiful.
So was there any, obviously, because like you got to work alongside some really big names in Star Wars, was there any times where they realized that you were from MMA at all?
Yeah. I was stood in the control room, you know, and Amelia Clark and Phoebe were singing an E17 song. Baby, if you got to go away, don't think I can take the pain, just stay now. And then I'm in my suit, and I went, stay now. Yeah. And then I was like, yeah, I toured with them. And Amelia went, what? And yeah, then I said MN8, and then they started singing I Got a Little Something For You. And you know, Amelia's adorable, man. You know, she's got the biggest laugh on the set. You know, everything just takes it in her stride or whatever, and then when it's time to turn it on, she turns it on like that, right?
Yeah.
But I'm stood there in my suit, you know, and I've got L3 stood there. I've got Kira stood there, but you know, it's the mother of dragons stood there. I'm thinking, whoa, and you know about MN8. You know about, because I'm shocked. Look, I'm honest, right? I'm shocked when anybody says that they know MN8. You know, because it was such a long time ago, and I just think, well, you know, people have forgotten or weren't into that music at that point in time. Or, you know, it's MN8 who? MN8 who? You know, I kind of prepare myself for that more than I do for people say, oh my goodness, I remember you guys, I saw you on this, I saw you now, and I went to see you here, and blah, blah, blah. It's like someone's telling me that they actually saw a dream that I had.
Yeah.
You know, it's that kind of surreal thing, you know, and I'm stood there on a Star Wars set with these actresses, droids in this room, you know, Ron Howard sat over there from Happy Days that I used to watch. You know, I used to rush home and watch Happy Days after Batman, you know, the Adam West version, you know.
Yeah.
Happy Days would come on after that, you know, and I'm sat, you know, I'm stood there in this room, and you know, you just press record because, you know, you've got to stay focused and work, but it's recording. It's recording, and the emotions are being recorded as well. So it's just, you know, you know,
Yeah.
it's just what it is. But yeah, just very, very grateful and appreciative of the fact that not only am I working on these movies, but I have something to contribute. Yeah, they want me for something that they know that I can contribute. It's a different world when it's like that, you know.
You're part of the family now.
Yeah, for real. It's anybody that's worked on Star Wars, it's instant family, no matter if it's distant family or whatever. It's kind of, I see it kind of like that.
Yeah.
But you know, it's a very personal thing, you know, because it's on so many levels in terms of when you were a kid and being interested in this stuff, to how the decisions that you've made throughout your career have allowed this to happen, you know. And I think back and I think, well, if I'd done this job, or if I'd done that and I'd done that, things might have been a little bit different, you know. But, you know, I stayed firm, you know, no guarantees, but the only thing that I had was hope.
Yeah.
You know, and rebellions are built on hope, you know. So you know, it's just, yeah, there's just so much serendipity with all of it, that it just feels right. Like it feels like it was meant to be, you know, which is which is kind of, it's hard to explain, but do you know what I mean? You know, in terms of your personal journey with wrestling and things like that, you know, it didn't matter how you're going to get there. You knew you were going to get there. You know, and you can't quantify that. You know, and but it's in that space of what I call real reality that it actually happened. So
awesome. So one thing I like to do at the end of my talks is to ask you some good points and bad points. So I want to find out what was your favorite set to work on, and what was the worst set you worked on, whether maybe it was just uncomfortable to work on, or maybe it didn't work for you, and then what was the most mind-blowing set you walked onto and you just was like at home straight away?
The most mind-blowing set I had the pleasure to walk on happened twice. And the first one happened after filming at the end of a day on The Force Awakens, when I got to walk on the Millennium Falcon.
Nice.
You know, just like, even now, there's some kind of reality to it. There's something that says, yeah, this is why we believe it in the movies, man. This is that ship, you know. That was just, and you know, and to see it stood there parked, you know. One has to be the most iconic spaceship in history, you know. I know the Trekkies might beg to differ, but you know, it's just a dream, you know. Because I remember also at school when kids had their trading cards and stickers and stuff like that. I'm talking about Star Wars. You know, I hadn't seen the movie, so I didn't know what the hell it was about. You know, all I knew is there was an argument in the playground who was stronger, Superman or Chewbacca, because Chewbacca apparently was holding these walls that were closing in with his hands. You know, which wasn't the case, but you know, kids. You know, and so, you know, I was collecting some of these cards, you know, because I was just mesmerized by them and I had no idea about the movie, whether it had come out or not. And I wasn't thinking that. I was just thinking, wow, this is just amazing. Oh yeah, and if you piece them together and you turned them over, they would give you the image of, I think it was C-3PO and R2-D2 or something like that, you know. Just back in the day with those cards. And you know, so that was probably one of the most amazing things. One of the most amazing sets that I got to work on was probably my office in the Spice Mines of Kessel. You know, because it's that famed Spice Mines of Kessel, and it's my office. Yeah. Those are my droids. This is my house and I'm in prison. Everybody I see in it, you know, it was that thing, you know. And that was amazing to watch, because I'm watching. I remember I went to the side to watch the monitor to see my entrance for the first time, and I saw myself come through the doors and I'm going like this or whatever, and rather than still watching myself walk about, because as an actor you can get quite narcissistic and just watch yourself and say, oh yeah, well I did a good job or not, but I watched myself trying to go past, but then I saw this little gong droid coming out of the wall, and I was transfixed. Yeah, and I think it was Jimmy V that was in that droid. And I'm like, whoa, that is so cool, right? Because I can't see that when I've got my head on. You know,
Yeah.
I can only see so much, and so it's kind of mapped and choreographed. So a lot of things that I won't see, and I saw that, and then it was time to go back again to do a few more takes, and then I realized, hang on, I didn't even watch myself the last time. You
Nice.
know what I mean? But that was beautiful. And there was this there was this take. You know, I don't know if it was a take or it was a rehearsal, but when the alarms go off and things like that, and the guards are kind of come down that tunnel that Beckett has to shoot. There was this proposed rehearsal where Beckett was shooting them or whatever. Then there was a mouse droid that came forward. Yeah, it stopped. Woody went like this. The droid went like this and left. Yeah, and I was just like, goosebumps. So I was just like, that was awesome, and it didn't make the cut. Yeah, but things like that, just and witnessing the droids in there, and some of the droids that stood up at the panels, they're actually puppets. Yeah, so it's not even green suits or anything. They're just there, and guys are behind operating these things. That's probably one of the best. The worst sets. Worst set wasn't even a Star Wars set. It had to be. I think it was Captain Phillips. Because yes, I'm in this room that would normally be used to hunt down Jason Bourne. But no, we're hunting down pirates on the high seas. And I was paying so much attention to what the second unit and what Paul Greengrass was saying occasionally, to how it was being filmed and stuff like that, that it really did, and I think it really did sum up that I needed to move on from doing character support.
Yeah.
You know, because the first one is Batman. You know, you're gonna have to go some to try and top that. You know, and the next one, I'm in this room with computers and stuff like that, and it's very real world stuff. You know, nothing fantasy about this. You know, and yeah, on so many levels, it kind of like reinforced that, okay, this is the time where you call it a day with this, Dee. You know, and it was for all the right reasons, constructive reasons, rather than, oh, I hated it because it was cold, or I hated it because it was this and blah, blah, blah. No, it just summed up the universe or the world that I wanted to operate in. You know, so that was probably the worst set. Is there an uncomfortable set? I've been uncomfortable a few times, but it has come with the job. Yeah. I remember on Solo in the Sabak, kind of Sabak, or the fighting area and stuff like that. Some of the earlier rehearsals and things like that. I'm in this got a right suit, and Tom Bell's my twin brother once again. You know, very handsome, ugly looking trolls, moldy type things, and having to keep doing this take over and over and over and over again. When you're out of breath, there's only so much breath you can actually keep recycling through and trying to get out of that suit. Yes, we have these massive ugly tongues and things like that, but after each take you would need, like, I could go maybe 2 or 3 takes, you know, and then you need a pause, you need to get some air in there, because the heads themselves are made out of chemicals and things like that. So the reason why air is pumped in, and the reason why they stop every 20 or 30 minutes just to check and see if you're okay, is because, you know, if those fumes get to you, you know, you're not even going to know you're about to pass out. You know, you're just going to be being picked up and and looking dizzy, with stars around your head and stuff. So I remember just having to tell the AD just to pause. He's going, all right, and action. I was like, no. Need some air. But that does come with the territory, and you are supposed to let them know when you do need that. But yeah, and I don't even know if I can even count that, but that's I think I will count that, because that's the only time I've told them to stop filming, because I needed some oxygen.
That kind of leads me on to my next question, is that obviously it's the same sort of question, but with like your wardrobes that you've worn. What's your favorite wardrobe that you've worn, and then one that you've worn that you just didn't get on with and you're happy to get out of it?
I've never been happy to get out of any of them, man. Never happy to get out of them. It's, you have such a short time within the day or within the course of filming to bond with that suit, to be able to emote out of that suit. Sometimes you may only have a couple of hours for what they want to shoot. But I don't know. That's a tough one. Like I said, L1's suit was sublime. But then I'm Kratinus, that funny little dude. He's he'll always have a place in my heart. That funny little dude. And Slowen Lo, but then Slowen Lo, he went. There was a journey with Slowen Lo, because at first he was just going to be a beachcomber, and then seeing ships fly over for that iconic Star Wars thing or whatever, and then it just grew into him owning an art gallery on the beach, and these people dumping their shuttle there, and he tells them not to park there on Canto Bight in The Last Jedi. And it took some time to find out that he wasn't one of the gamblers in Canto Bight. You could tell there was something different about him when we were filming in Pinewood, because he wasn't wearing the traditional black and white suits and things like that. He was just there in his hippie gown, man, just whoa, dude, type of thing. And it wasn't until Rian Johnson said, imagine him as that type of hippie. And I was like, got it. Because up until then it was like, oh, maybe he's posh, maybe he walks around like this, and whatever and stuff like that. And then it slowly came down to one of these things, like who walk like this, like, yo, and just that character, getting to play that character, and even when he's gesturing to the police, he says, I told him not to park down here, and all this type of stuff, whatever. I can't remember what I was saying on the day as guide vocals or whatever. But all of that inside this head, and then having someone in my ear, because I could only see out the nostrils, and the nostrils were over here, right? And you can't see anything else. So if I wanted to look at you, I'd have to look at you and say, oh, that's where you are. And so I say, okay, well, I'll point my head this way. It was one of those things. And together with the voice in my ear of Ollie Taylor, getting the gestations and the movements correct, and that scene, I think it's just one. I think it's one take. It was done in one take.
Nice.
The scene in Canto Bight, when we say, "Oh no, those are the shuttle parkers," and then it's like, "Oh," and that, and they captured that whole blinking thing and all in one go, and it was just like, yeah, of course they did. These guys work for Jim Henson and things and whatever. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, and to be a part of that cycle. But I don't know, maybe Kratinus, maybe that's a tough one. I love, let's go with the first one, Kratinus. Kratinus was an absolute joy, and having Tom Bell to play off, you know, meant that he wasn't just doing these things on his own. It's not the Cratinus show. You know, you don't get the performance from Cratinus without the, you know, that nudge from Prashi saying, look at it over there, you know, and whatever, and then laughing and all that type of stuff. Cratinus. Yeah, and I have to say the first one, because also with the movies, you know, my favorite Star Wars movie has to be A New Hope. You know, because without A New Hope, you wouldn't have had anything else. And the heartache and pain George went through to make that movie, you know, and still and then to turn it into what it became after that, upon its release, you know.
Yeah.
Just a testament to the vision that he alone had. He was very much on his own, you know, and left out in the cold and left to kind of fail, you know, let alone whatever personal traumas that were going on. I don't know, but just that as an inspiration, just to, you know, if that's what you see, just go for it. You know, it's not going to be easy, but see it through. That was what was beautiful about that.
So I got my last question. Obviously, it's going to be the film prop. So, what was your favorite film prop to use, and then which film prop was probably one that you had most difficult using throughout your film careers?
My favorite film prop. My favorite film prop. I haven't used many, or I haven't had to use many. It's like even with Batman Begins, yeah, I've got a pistol on my holster in my holster, but you know, I can't go run around the set shooting at my mate, you know, pretending all that kind of stuff. But I think the keys that Quay carries are very, very significant, because of the play on words, and you know, and he was the slave driver of Kessel.
Yeah,
you know, there was a special way that I held them or wrapped them around my hand, you know, so that whenever I held these keys, that's how Quay holds these keys. You know. It also helped with maintaining, remember, like I said, that arm posture that the pikes have. Yeah, so everything kind of, there was a great deal of synergy and synchronicity in that as a package. So I did like that. So I'd have to say that was my favorite. And actually, I don't think any of the other characters had props. Yeah, the Gods Are Right prop was a cup, you know, because they've always drinking. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Regineer Teed, one of the Cloud Riders. Yeah, the lizard face guy. I got to hold a blaster.
Oh,
you know,
wicked.
I got to hold a fabricated blaster, and I got to hold it the way that I wanted to hold it. You know, and I can't for the life of me remember how differently I was holding it, but it wasn't the conventional way to hold a blaster. You know, it's like when you see these films now, I think it's like it's overkill. Like, you know, they hold these blasters, but you can't have your finger on the trigger. It's got to be like that. Oh, because everyone's trained by the SAS, even throughout space. And everyone's like, no, man, give me a break. It's just like, you know, it's just like they're gonna have the finger on the trigger, and they won't pull it unless they want to kill somebody. You know, you know what I mean? There's that little thing that irks me when I see these things, you know, and in these movies where people aren't even supposed to know that type of stuff, you know. But that's the safety position. Yeah, but how would your character hold it? Because it ain't real, you know. But how would your character hold it? That bugs me. All right. that's my little thing. But yeah, he gets to hold a blaster. I don't think you get to see him shoot it. I don't think so. But yeah, my keys. And did you ask what the worst prop was?
Yeah, was there something that you didn't really get along with, or maybe something you used you thought wasn't really necessary, or
Um, no, no, but I will tell you that in Jeddah, yeah, I'll give you this instead. In Jeddah, they positioned me up on this ledge. They're like, I think you get to see a bit of that ledge when the battle takes place. Yeah, the battle in the street takes place, but there's a ledge in the corner like that, and the marketplace was there. So that, I think they might have moved the marketplace out. But
yeah,
from the camera looking at it, you're seeing this thing in the corner. In the rehearsal takes and things like that, I had to just make myself look busy, like in the background, while the silver RA, Nathan, looks up. Yeah, so when Nathan looks up, I'm technically in the background on that ledge, yeah, going through that repeated rehearsal thing.
yeah,
They say, okay, we're going to roll the cameras, and when we say cut, just so that you know, because sometimes because it's guerrilla filming, you won't know we're recording. And
yeah,
so if I hear action, I won't stop until I hear cut, or until someone says, okay, DD, stop, they've stopped. And so I was making myself look busy and all this type of stuff. And then I threw in this deep cut, it's the kind of like this deep cut little homage to 3PO, where there was this metal filtering unit or something in the background. And I walked over to it, and it wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. So I gave
yeah.
it the same kick that 3PO gives R2 in A New
Nice.
Hope. So I did that, and someone was filming, and they said, "Oh, no, do that again." So I kicked it again or whatever, and I waited or whatever, and then I went back and whatever, and I'm gutted that didn't make it. But that was a little that was a little homage I put in. But that's probably
Yeah,
the only thing I'm gutted about that didn't make it. Because it got topped. It got topped, didn't it? I got topped with seeing those kids. But yeah,
man, that's awesome.
but it's been an amazing journey. It's been an amazing experience. I have no idea where my career is going from here on out. Hopefully, there'll be some more things, but to look back at my journey, like the only poster I've never taken off my wall is a Star Wars poster. Some of them have been changed, but each time I put a poster up, I had some association with somebody later on, right?
Yeah,
And only one that I didn't take down throughout this whole period of time since I was a kid is a Star Wars poster.
yeah,
And now I look at that poster and it means more to me now than it ever could have.
yeah,
So yeah, just you get these moments where you're just extremely grateful for the journey and the path that you're on, and there's never been a guarantee about any of the journey at all, other than your self belief that something could happen, a doorway, an opportunity could arise, but you
yeah,
never know how, you never know when, you never know why it will just pop up. But it has done, and it's been absolutely magical.
yeah,
I tell my friend, like I've got like one of my buddies, Chris Bartlett in America,
yeah,
he's had his own fair share of these beautiful things too, and I just say, well, I do call it Star Wars magic, and it's not something I throw around lightly as just, oh yeah, Star Wars magic, woo, it's something very personal, very real,
yeah,
like trying to quantify some of these things, you understand, it's just too much. It's like if I said to you, well, if you landed a role in Kenobi, and say, well, but how did it feel, just someone for calling you up and saying, okay, you got that role, come down to the set tomorrow? you know, you have to you take a deep breath, you know, because you're a fan, you know, it's just one of these things. You take a deep breath, you dig deep, and then you go and give it your best shot, you know, and you go and give it 110%, you know. That other 10% is just love, man. It's just joy.
Yeah. Well, on that note, Dee, I think that's the perfect way to end our talk today. I just want to thank you so much for being on. I know we were only going to go an hour, but I think we've gone 2 nearly.
Yeah. That sounds about right. But no, dude, it's been a pleasure to talk to you about this stuff. You know, I can talk for days about Star Wars or my experiences on Star Wars, but you know, what it means to other people who are interested in things like this on behind the scenes, and what it means to some of the performers to be a part of these things, you know. I'm extremely grateful for that audience being there, because I'm still there, you know. I'm still watching these behind the scenes things. I'm still listening to these talks and things like that. So yeah, really do appreciate it. But thanks for having me, man.
No, thank you for being on. Like, it's been awesome, and thank you for sharing us all your stories. Yeah, it's been a privilege.
Awesome, dude. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you very much, Dee. Have a good day.
Yeah, man. May the force be with you.
I can't only do it with one hand for some reason. I don't know why.
I'll give you that Trekkie thing, man.